Peace and love, everyone. This is Ama coming to you with another episode of my home birth series. Today, I have Crystal, and Crystal will be sharing her experience as a home birth mama. As you all may or may not know, my name is Ama. I am a holistic full spectrum doula. I am a Kundalini Reiki practitioner and an aspiring midwife. And today I have Crystal, and I want Crystal to just share a little bit about herself. And at the end of this video, if you want to connect with Crystal, I will be putting her links in the description so you can connect with her if her spirit or who she is or what she offers resonates with you.
Thank you. Yeah, my name is Crystal. I am a mom to two beautiful children. I have two under two. My oldest will be 3 in February, and my youngest just turned 13 months yesterday. So I am a stay-at-home mom, and I'm also a doula. So yeah, I just really kind of felt called to the birth world after my own wonderful experience, which we'll talk about a little bit today. And I'm just really happy and excited to share. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So let's start the interview. So my very first question is, what led you to have a home birth over a hospital birth?
Yeah, so a few kind of things, right? When I was younger, I was like, I always knew ultimately I wanted to have a home birth, but I always felt initially my first would be like in a hospital or a birth center. And then I got pregnant during the pandemic. So that really changed my perspective and my idea of what I wanted, because with all the restrictions happening in the hospitals and everything around COVID, I was like, I don't want to be restricted to who I can and cannot have, and heaven forbid I'm sick, and hospitals, I don't want to get sick from trying to have a baby in a hospital. And so I just was like, you know what, changing plans, I'm gonna have my baby at home. So, and then when the first experience was so great, I just was like, we're doing it again. So that's so my mom had 2 home births. She had 3 children. She had me in the hospital with an emergency C-section that could have been avoided in hindsight. And so growing up, I got to witness my mom have 2 home births because I'm a little bit older than my brothers. And so it's a familiar idea. My grandma had all home births with all but one. So this is kind of what we do, I guess, in my family.
Love that. I love that. It's like we all had pandemic babies because I was pregnant in 2020 as well. For
Yeah.
sure. But I love that. Home birth definitely runs in my family as well. And then my mom didn't have a home birth, but later on down the lines, we did have home birth because that was the original way, right? That's the only option that a lot of us had. And that's what we're used to. So it's like I kind of rebirthed that within my family for sure. Um yeah, so my next question is, how did you prepare for your home birth? What are some things that you did to help you prepare in any aspect, may it be mentally, physically, spiritually, etc.?
Yeah. So I think mentally, kind of like I mentioned earlier, it was a pretty easy choice. I was like, this is what we're going to do. And I looked at my husband and I was like, this is what we're doing. Like, this is how I want to birth my baby. You can have a different choice, opinion, but I'm pretty firm on that. But as far as preparing, it was really important to me to have a birth team that I trusted 110%. And so, especially being a first time mom, especially with all the stress and anxiety from the pandemic as it was, like I wanted to feel like I was safe. And so I actually was super fortunate to have the same midwife my mom had when she had
Oh,
my
wow.
brothers.
Wow.
So I had known her since I was almost 5.
Oh, wow.
And it was really a blessing to be able to reach out to Patricia and be like, hey, so I'm pregnant and I was wondering if you'd be my midwife. And so she said yes, and that was super exciting. And she had another midwife with her. They worked as a team. And Jennifer was amazing. I just immediately fell in love. She's like, I want you to meet this other midwife I work with. And because I like to have another midwife with me and let me know how you feel. And so she introduced us and we just immediately clicked, absolutely fell in love. We're still friends. I'm going to go get lunch with her in a week or so. Like, she just was
Wow.
an amazing person that, like, when you, these two people for me, and this is how I knew, when they both came in and were talking to me and they were asking me questions, what do I want? And they were just like, okay, sure, we can be flexible. And they were just so okay and open to anything and everything, answered my questions that, like there was no stupid question, like truly held on to that. And so I felt so safe and at home, and we instantly like clicked. When you just click with some people, like instantly it was that. And I was like, this is my birth team. And I felt so safe. And so with that kind of, you know, any and all questions I had, they were accessible to me to ask. And that's kind of how I prepared. I asked all the questions. I asked them what kind of questions because I had no idea what kind of questions I should be asking. I've never been pregnant before.
Right.
Um, and so, yeah, I think building a strong birth team with people that I truly trusted, choosing to have a baby where I felt safe. Hospitals make me anxious anyways. Like,
Mhm.
that was the key factor in preparing, asking lots of
Love
questions. And
that. And that kind of goes into my next question I was going to ask because you brought up, how important it was to have a solid birth team to make you feel safe. So my next question is, what factors did you consider when selecting a midwife? And you kind of already touched on it, but if you want to elaborate some more, you're welcome to.
yeah, absolutely. So with Patricia, it was a no-brainer. I'd known her for over 20 years. And so I already had that, we became close after I asked her to be my midwife, but she had been a part of my life for so long. So I wasn't bringing on a stranger, which was critical and was awesome. It was, I wanted to be able to ask questions without judgment. And I wanted people who respected the choices I wanted to make, but also, more importantly, who provided opportunity for informed choice. So when there was decisions to be made, I was given all the full spectrum of, the pros and cons and all of that. And so that I can make a choice without judgment. Even if they maybe wouldn't have agreed, I never knew. They were really good about that. And so that was important to me.
I love that. It's really important to hire a midwife that's on the same page as you, right? So my next question, it's important that you have a solid birth team that is on the same page as you, because if not, you're not going to be comfortable whether you're at the hospital or at home. And so my next question is, can you describe the environment that you set up to prepare for your home birth? Like, what are some things that you did to set the tone?
Yeah, so with my first, it was funny. I did all the things. I redecorated and I set up a whole birth space and had a spot for my pool by the window, and I made a playlist on my on YouTube, so I had music and all the things. And when my birth came, I didn't want my music. I didn't want anyone touching me. I, and I mean, it probably was good, but in that moment, I didn't care what the room was, how it was decorated, because I was so focused on just having this baby.
Yes.
But yeah, I just kind of opened up the space. I put my birth pool by the windows. I wanted an outdoor birth, but it was February and it just finished snowing, and that wasn't going to be an option. So my mom is my neighbor, and she has this beautiful sunroom, and our space was small anyway. So I actually had my first at my mom's in her sunroom, which is all windows on one wall.
I love that. I love that.
So that was my compromise. I was like, I can have an indoor outdoor birth, sort of, but I'm a
Yes.
nature like centered person. Like when I like to go out in nature, I like to walk around outside barefoot. Like that is my grounding. So I really knew that this was potentially going to be really scary, and a lot, and I wanted to create an environment that I knew would foster relaxation and peace for myself. So I brought in all my house plants, and I brought it, did the by the windows and all that. So
I love that. I love that. Having, that's a I guess something that I would want to do. I mean, in theory, I would love to birth outside as well. I just feel like, what other way to do it, to be honest. So I really love that idea. Even though it didn't go as planned, that's something I have in my head. Like, I would love to birth one of my babies outside for sure. It just seems so natural, right? Intuitive to just want to go outside.
I saw this video. It inspired me. It was probably like 6 months before I got pregnant. This woman standing in a creek, and she gave birth standing in this creek. She just kind of was laboring and reached down and caught her baby. And I was like outside in the woods in this creek, and I was like, yes.
I love that. I love it.
But
Right. So my next question is, how did you manage pain without any interventions? That's one of the biggest concerns I feel from most women when they're considering having a home birth is, the pain will be too much and then I won't be able to get an epidural. So can you shed light on some of the things that you did to manage the discomfort?
yeah, so with my birth, it was definitely a learning curve while I was in labor, because I thought I had it, and I thought the tools, and I did, but things for me escalated really quickly. And so I was so grateful that I had the midwives I had, because they were really good at grounding me and bringing me back. And so every time I would, lose myself in the intensity of what was going on, Patricia would come to me and hold my hands and look at me and help me refocus. And she's like, you need to breathe. And she would breathe with me. So for me, a lot of breathing. I like to joke that I learned how to meditate while I was in labor for the first time. So breathing, I'm a really vocal person. I joke that I moo like a cow. But it works for me. And so I guess it makes sense. I'm someone who talks all the time. So being vocal during labor maybe just made sense. Really coming to a focus, coming into myself, and just one contraction at a time, and knowing it will be over. I mean, there are
Yeah.
people in comas that give birth to babies. Your body will do it, and
Yes.
trusting that process and having those reminders from my team, especially the first go around, where they would remind me to be strong, and that there's so many women before me that have done this, and it's natural, and my body was meant to give birth, right? We
Yes.
were women designed to be able to birth children. And so just holding on to that. And I had moments where I got scared. I think that's pretty normal and pretty,
Yes.
not, I don't know what to expect because you've never done it before. So, and how are you, if this was anything else and you'd never done it before, most people would never expect you to know how to do that thing right the first time. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've never done this before, and giving myself permission to figure it out and to listen, and, having the support of my husband, and learning how important movement was. And at the end of the day, it was perfect. I had a big old 9 pound, 1 ounce boy, and it
Wow,
worked.
9 pounds.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's just a lot of breathing for me, a lot of vocal, some movement. The birthing pool was fantastic. So, though I was only in it in the beginning and then at the end with him, I kept having hot flashes, so it was uncomfortable for me. But it did, when I was in it, was really helpful. And with my second, I had experience and knew what to expect, and I felt like I handled it way better, right? I started breathing before the contractions even got bad, if that makes sense. Kind of contractions. Find my center, And I used the birthing pool a whole lot more. And I got to labor outside. It was a beautiful day that day. But ultimately, she was born inside because I went to use the restroom and things went very fast.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so a lot of breathing, being outside, I think definitely helped me. It was a beautiful sunny day. And yeah, I don't, this kind of this kind of mantra that I would tell myself was, that one was bad. It's going to get worse. You will be okay. And that's kind of for me was kind of like, it was like accepting that that was rough and knowing that it's going to get more intense and reassuring myself that it was going to be okay. And I found that was really helpful for myself personally.
I love that. So you had affirmations to affirm and to just remind you that, it's not going to get better, but it'll be over, right? And each contraction will help you get to that point to be closer to birthing your baby. So I really, really love that you had different things set in place to help you with the discomfort of labor, because it's something that you can't avoid. It's just what it is. You have to feel it out, for sure. And it's not really, I mean, no shame. I don't shame women who decide to birth in a hospital or have epidurals, but naturally it's something that we're supposed to experience, and our body does what it needs to do to try to help ease us through that process as the endorphins kick in and so forth. And then we try to hone in on our other tools that we've learned to help us surrender, not so much to help us stop it, but to help us to surrender.
That's the key that you said right there, surrendering into the contractions, into the process, and completely just understanding you have no control. I mean, you have control over your breathing and you have your control over your movements and things, but the contractions are going to come.
Yes.
And accepting that, which was what was really hard for me the first time. I have some trauma and things related to that I won't get into, but like holding on control is a safety thing for me. And
Yes.
so learning how and figuring out how to surrender and give up that control made a world of a difference. Once I figured that out and got to that point with my first, it was a game changer. Things completely was like a switch flipped. And my midwives talk about that. Like, we saw that switch flip. Like, you let go and you found your center and things went a whole lot different. And then with my first, I already knew what to expect. So I was able to just let that go right away. And that's a big thing that I tell moms, that I've worked with, like, just have to let it go. You have to let go of that control. And I know it's so hard and I'm going to be here and I'll coach you through it. But that is like the big key. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yes. So my next question is, what support system did you have in place? I know you spoke on your midwives, but is there any other support system that you set up during your home birth?
Yeah, so I had my midwives, I had my mom, I had my husband. And it's funny because my first, I was like, I don't want anyone around except for my husband, and my midwives are going to sit in the other room and come in and check on me as needed. And then I wanted everybody. And I say, I know both my husband and my mom were all there with me. And it was fantastic. And then for my second, the support looked a little different. I had both my midwives and my husband, and my mom had my son, and she would periodically bring him in to check in with us and then go take him off to do some things somewhere else on the property and then come back and check in, which was perfect for me because I didn't want to stress about him. But that was key support for me in that moment. So
I love that.
Those are who.
Support is definitely vital, but you still want your space at the same time. So it's a balance, right? And Was there any challenges that arise during your home birth? And if there were any challenges, how did you address them?
Yeah, so both times, oddly enough, I had retained placenta, so my placenta didn't release. And this is where having a good team of midwives or whatever is really important if that's what you feel you need in the first place. I'm so glad they were there because I had my retained placenta, and the first time um, they were able to get it released. They tried everything before. We tried a little dose of Pitocin. It didn't work, unfortunately. They gave me Pitocin, and everything was so fast. It was like boom, 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 done. Like they acted quickly, and so that was taken care of. The second time, I I did start hemorrhaging a bit, and they just immediately like Pitocin. We know how this goes with they knew me, and it was I didn't honestly even know until the next day it was going on because my midwives were so fantastic. I'm just so in love. I'm holding my daughter and we're nursing and they're taking care of stuff. And it was just so flawlessly taken care of that I didn't even realize there was any complications. Um,
Wow.
yeah. So I those that was it. And I would do it again. We're done having kids, but if I were to have another, I would do it again because from my experience or hearing stories of friends and family who had hospital births and complications, it turned into chaos. They talk about the chaos and baby being taken away and all of these beeping and all these machines and all this stuff that happened, and I that would have stressed me out, which could further complicate other things, right? And so just knowing that I just was calm and I didn't no one freaked out, everyone kept their head, it made a world of a difference, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yes, I love, 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 love that. Um, so my next question is, how did you ensure the safety of you and your baby during your home birth? Like, what are some things that you did to make sure that your decision to have a home birth would be safe for the both of you?
Yeah, I think it really came down to making sure I was educated. And I guess I've said 100 times, my birth team was a huge factor in that. But like doing my own research and deciding what I wanted to do and learning for me, I knew I was going to breastfeed my children, so learning about that and um, learning, cleaning my home, the normal nesting things I think are a part of that, right? We clean for a reason. Even if we have a hospital birth, instinctually we pick up, we clean, we get prepared. I don't know. I think it really just mostly came down. I wasn't afraid. I was never worried about my baby being safe, I guess. So I don't know that I did a whole lot of preparing beyond just researching what was normal, what wasn't normal. Um, hi. And oh my gosh, cute.
It's like
Sorry.
I'm itsy bitsy spider right now.
Okay. That. Just understanding of what is normal, what's not normal, and feeling well informed.
I love that. I love that. So my next question is, what are some moments or aspects of your home birth that really stuck out to you that you still think about to this day that, just makes you smile or any emotion that it brings up? Or what are some memories that you really highlight in your mind?
Yeah, I think at the end of both, this is the thing that it was so like, wow, I have never felt so proud, so awesome, so powerful in my life as when everything was over and the dust had settled, so to speak, and I sat with what I had just done. And that was yeah, that for me is that the end when it's over and you're just like, whoa.
Like I
During
just did this. I can't believe I just did this. Yeah.
out of my body. I not only did I make a baby, right? I just delivered a baby and I did it on my own. And I did it
Yes.
without, and I did it with love, surrounded by love and support in an environment that I felt safe. And I am really proud of that. And I felt that like immediately. I was like, whoa, that was a new high, right? Like that was so cool. During my labor, I think it was definitely like the support I had. People who believed in me, people, I have this very distinct memory that I kind of mentioned earlier. Patricia was my first, and I'm hanging over the pool and things have gotten really, really intense. I was in transition for a long time, and she came and got up in my face and held my hands like this, and she told me that I could do it, right? And she gave me this whole speech about how I could do it, and I was strong, and I'm doing it right now, and that was such an important moment for me because she brought me to focus and she gave me her power, right? And she helped me find mine. And it was such
Yes.
a beautiful moment of unity and strength and something I will cherish forever because unfortunately a few months after my daughter was born she passed away of cancer, and so
Oh,
I these moments like that, and that one is probably one of my favorite.
oh, I'm sorry to hear that. That's a beautiful memory to have with her. Wow, wow, wow. Breathtaking. The birth work is one of those things where intuitively you feel called to do it and to assist other mothers, as a birth worker myself, even as a home birth mama. But you don't realize the impact that you make on people's lives, until they come back and tell you how you help them heal in those moments. And you're like, I'm just showing up and holding space and doing what I was supposed to do. So I know that her legacy and the love that she poured into other people will last forever, So again, I'm sorry to hear that, and that's a beautiful, beautiful memory to share. Uh, so, do you feel like having a home birth really helped your postpartum period and your overall well-being?
Yes, I think it did. It was, I didn't have the fear of, oh no, I'm going home and now what do we do? Right? I've heard, a lot of moms will talk about how they had this baby in the hospital and they're like, okay, go home. I had my baby at home. I was already home. And my midwives were there and they stayed after and they came back the next day and periodically postpartum, and maybe I could call or text them any time of day or night. And so I didn't have that like, oh, what do I do? I knew what to do and I felt confident doing it. Um, and even in the moments that I didn't know, I could call my mom, and I understand I'm really fortunate to be able to say I could call my mom. Not everyone has that. But I could call my midwives, I could call my team and get those answers. And, you know, yeah, I think it really did. I did struggle a little bit with some postpartum depression after my son was born. Just being transparent, but I think I was able to handle it, or not, like figure that out, come to that conclusion and cope and, problem solve through that and get to a better place because I had those, people in place and that support. I didn't have to make an appointment to talk to somebody.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Um, which is important to note that even if you have a home birth, the postpartum period can still be a little shaky, right? You still need a lot of support during the postpartum period. For some women, the recovery might be a little better having a home birth, but the rebirth of yourself during the postpartum period still needs support, right? Because basically that's what it is, and it doesn't always look pretty, but it's a part of the process.
Absolutely.
And my very last question is, what advice do you have for women or families who are considering birthing at home?
Yeah, I think that if you're considering it, and even if you're not, if you're unsure, sit with it. Take a moment, sit with it by yourself, and think about it. If you need to, if you're a list person, you can make a pro con list. That helps a lot of people. And then if you have a partner, you can sit with your partner with it. and talk about it together if they have any concerns. I've always encouraged people who are thinking about it to, even if you're on the fence, interview if you are wanting, midwives there and you're not looking to go unassisted, for example, like interview the midwives. It doesn't mean you're committing, right? You're just talk to these people, get to know them, get to know their personalities and their morals and all the things. See if you connect with anybody. And then you don't have to hire the first person to interview either, right? So like, and then sit with it again. And if you're still unsure, maybe go talk to an OB at a hospital and talk to them. And then now you have the full idea of what either sides can look at, like, and sit with that. And if it feels right and if it feels good to have your baby at home, then do so. And if
Yes.
you are feeling like you need more support, um, than just a midwife, then, there are doulas. There are doulas for birth. There are doulas for postpartum. There are doulas for loss. There's a whole spectrum of people that you can reach out to for support and information. We are, we live in a time where there's internet and there's a lot of, research out there. And so, yeah, talking to people, sitting with it, and ultimately at the end, making a decision that feels good to you and not just a decision that feels good to other people. So you feel pressured to do it yourself. Because what's most
Yeah.
important at the end of the day is that you give birth where you feel most safe.
Yes, I love that. Do what's best for you. Do what feels most comfortable for you. Do not make a decision based on someone else's comfortability, because at the end of the day, this is your body, your baby, and your birth, right? So it's all about you and you rebirthing yourself, and birthing your baby. So I really, really love that. And thank you so much for coming on to share your experience and your story. Again, I will be posting any links, how you can get in contact and stay connected with Crystal. And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of our home birth series, and there will be many more to come. Peace and love.